People of power, welcome to Mount Fitness MBS, where I am your host, Brother Minister Mongoose. And if you're tuning in for the first time, guys, this is a holistic mind, body, and spirit ministry. This, at the core of this ministry, is the question that I will pose to you. It's a hypothetical question, but it goes like this. He, whatever he is to you, has given you a mind, a body, and a spirit. Which one of those you think he gave you for you to neglect? So this is a holistic mind, body, and spirit ministry. If you're interested in specific services that are provided by this ministry that are designed and categorized individually and merged and balanced simultaneously to help you prioritize, show gratitude and appreciation for the mental you, the physical you, and the spiritual you. If you'd like some information on the services that are provided by this ministry to help you address all of you and not just some of your parts, then I invite you to watch a video that's titled MBS Service Tutorial. It's going to talk about the specific services, what they consist of, how they're implemented, and how they can be beneficial to you and your loved ones. But there is literally 3 different yous that are united and one. United in being one you. There's a mental you, of course there's a physical you, and yes, there is a spiritual you. So check out those, check out that video, get some information about the services. Please also visit the physical fitness branch of the ministry located at mountfitnessmbs.com. And if you have any follow-up questions, or if you'd like to schedule your initial consultation and evaluation in any or all of the services, then hit the email link down in the description box. I'd love the opportunity to speak with you. As it relates to some of the messages of this ministry, the messages, they all coincide with the services, but the actual messages themselves, this ministry dares to investigate any and everything that's associated with the human condition. So I would pose that same hypothetical question to you. What part of human existence, whatever it is, attitude, conduct, behavior, finances, religion, and so forth, what part of human existence do you think he wants you to neglect, turn a blind eye to, not be aware of, not prioritize, be afraid of? Same rhetorical question. Right. So that's what's at the core of this ministry, investigating whatever it is that's relevant and that's substantive as it relates to the human experience. So with that being said, again, let me welcome you guys. I do appreciate every single one of you guys. And we'll talk about today shaping and, I don't want to word it, shaping and controlling the mind. Shaping and controlling the mind. Being our thoughts, day-to-day thoughts, and what we're thinking about, where we're putting our thought energies into, as well as controlling ourselves and not to get too excited in a certain situation, not to get overwhelmed in a certain situation, not to overreact, not to get frustrated, how to deal with these things. All the different components and aspects of, thought control and the shaping of the mind. That's what we're talking about today. And this is even that much more important and that much more relevant and substantive, if you will, when it comes to our children. Because as we know, the children are the future. We've had our times to be children. And we can't go back and relive those times, but we can darn sure, we can make darn sure that our children's minds are shaped, molded, and they are able to control their thoughts, their feelings and emotions, and all those things that are born out of their mind and their thoughts, pardon me. We can make sure that they're more efficient, more proficient, and more knowledgeable all around when it comes to these things. The children are the future, guys. And it's important that you know that if you aren't, in a very intentional way, in a very deliberate and even consistent way, if you aren't shaping your child's mind, then the world is. Your neighbors are. Their friends at school, the teachers, the YouTube channels, the in vogue culture and society at large. Oh, there's some shaping, there's some molding that's going on. This is how, unfortunately, we as adults have allowed the world, if you will, to spiral down such a unsustainable path. It's because we were born into this matrix that downloaded all of this nonsense into us, whether it's about the meaning and the purpose of life, prejudging people, being selfish when it comes to whether it's ourselves, our families, our race, our ethnicity, our political beliefs, being selfish, and it's all about us when it comes to these things. And now we find ourselves in a place to where the powers that be are literally can just pull a string and the puppet just responds accordingly. No mind control, no thought control, no emotional discipline. And we have to do better for our children. Obviously, we need to do better for ourselves as well. So, just spending time with your kids, it's not enough. And I'm not trying to call anybody out to when it comes to their parenting skills. I know it's a tough job. I know we all do the best that we can, but therein lies the great workshop of parenting and of life. The great workshop is to say, hey, I'm doing the best I can. But if there's an opportunity for me to make a course correction, refine things, and do an even better job, then that's my responsibility. And so coming home from work or going on vacations or doing the things that we do for our children and grandchildren, and just kind of doing these things, in a unmindful type of way, which is to say just in a superficial way. Like, okay, I take them to the ball game. I spend time with them out in the backyard. We go on vacations. And we're doing these things on a superficial level, but there's an underlying level that we need to be addressing. Pardon me. In terms of making sure that our kids are growing up and are aware and knowledgeable of the world that we live in, but the world that they live in as far as kids is vastly different. It's foreign to the times and the world and the ways that we lived in growing up. I mean, I personally, and a lot of you guys out there may as well, I predate the internet. I predate cell phones. I predate, even things like microwave. Point being is a lot of these things that our children are having to deal with, a lot of the things that are in their world were not in our world. And we got to be intentional and deliberate when it comes to making sure that they are aware of those things and they're not just kind of stumbling across these things or falling into these things as a result of YouTube, TikTok, teachers, classmates at school, neighbors. We have to make sure that we are familiarizing them with what's taking place in their world. The avenues to make mistakes, the temptations, the different technological things that could be used against them, weaponized against them, whether it's some of the things that may have been a little bit more common in our days, like whether it's violence or racism or thugging or drug use and crime or whatever it may have been, those things as well. But as we know, we had to deal with those kinds of things, and they have to deal with those kinds of things and be made aware of those things. But there's this whole other different category of things that they have to also be aware of, familiarized with, so they can know what to avoid, what to look out for, what's a bad sign, what's a good sign, appropriate behavior, how do you avoid these things? I'll give you an example. A couple that I am counseling, one of their issues is the mom wanting to familiarize their children with some of these things, whether it's same-sex relationships, whether it's, I don't know any other way to put it, but when they have these sex changes and they have boys and girls thinking that they're opposite sex, and they're having the sex changes operations and those kinds of things, whether it's those kinds of things, whether it's confronting racism and the mom wanting to let the kid know that all these things are in her view, and even though the father is in agreement with her that those things are wrong, they don't believe in those things, the difference is the mom wants to kind of introduce the fact that these things exist in society, in the life of their kids, which the oldest one, I believe, is 9, and the youngest one, I believe, is 7. So there's a 7, an 8, and a 9-year-old. And the dad is totally opposed to this. Even things when it comes to the mom, like foul language. One of the things that they brought up in their most recent session was her telling the 8-year-old and the 7-year-old what we would call foul words are for both a girl's private part and a male's private part. So it wasn't like on her itinerary. It just organically came up in a conversation at the house. And she thought it was appropriate to let them know that, hey, if you hear this word, that means it's a bad word, a foul language, whatever you want to call it, for a girl's private part. And this is the foul word for a boy's private part. And the dad was totally opposed to that, and he didn't want them to know the words. And so they kind of had this disagreement about that. Hence, one of their most recent sessions, hence the topic of this message. I, as being, both the counselor, the philosopher, the intermediary, uh, I have to find a balance point, while letting them know as a unit that, hey, I air out with what the mom is doing. I air out with the mom's approach. Because the last thing that you want, and of course I have to balance that with taking in the dad considerations, and in a very honest way letting him know I know it's tough. And I definitely, rationalize why I rationalize with the fact that you don't want your kids to be introduced to these things, but these are the things that they are exposed to, and the only alternative is for you to kind of keep that information from them, and then they go out and get it in society. They go out and get it, unfortunately, but yet is a real occurrence. They get it as a result of some negative experience with somebody taking advantage of them and introducing them to those things, or maybe even much, much worse. And that could have been prevented had they known up front. But what's happening is most kids just they unfortunately don't know, and they're being introduced to these things. In some schoolrooms across the United States, it's actually a part of their curriculum. And they're introducing these. The term escapes me right now, but when they're saying that this person was born with this orientation, but they're really meant to be born with this orientation, as if this thing that we refer to as God makes mistakes. And they're encouraging these kids and introducing these kids into all kinds of different stuff. And so that's the alternative that we're faced with. This is how things like, if my main two heads and tails examples, that's all they are, points of references. My main two heads and tails examples are, say, for example, being introduced into the thug life, the street life. It's like, if you're not going to prepare, and this is how it continues to perpetrate itself and rebirth and regenerate itself, generation after generation after generation, because a lot of well-to-do people have kids, but they don't, and they may spend quality time with them along the lines that I just mentioned, but they don't delve into the fact that, hey man, kids carrying guns to school, kids doing drugs at a young age, which again is one of the topics that the mom in the couple that I just referenced, she, has had those conversations with her very, young children. And the dad is opposed to that. But this is why these things, whether it's thugging or something, again, my heads and tails, whether it's racism, these things continue to be, continue to rebirth themselves generation after generation as a result of the fact that there are well-to-do parents that don't prescribe to any of those beliefs, and in fact are diametrically opposed to those beliefs, but they don't dig underneath the surface when they're spending time with their children and letting them know about some of these tough issues. And so the kid end up being introduced to that at school, again, in the neighborhood, out on the farm, an uncle or relative that just introduced it to them. And now they're beholding to something that the parents in and of themselves know is counterproductive. So we have to take the steps to realize that when we're dealing with ourselves, and maybe I'll make a second video about that, but it must have been his will for me to spend this amount of time. As I'm at 20 minutes, I'm going to see if I can be out of here at 30. But it must have been his will for me to spend this amount of time on the children itself, because we know they're so, impressionable. Doesn't take much. And you can be watching a cartoon nowadays. You can be watching one of their favorite cartoons, and out of nowhere you may see or hear something that you're like, hold on, this is a cartoon here. So the cartoons, the movies, the TikToks, the YouTube, the in vogue culture, sometimes the teachers, sometimes the pastors and imams and ministers. And if you're not having these tough conversations with them because you feel like they're too young or whatever, which is the father's point of view in the couple that I referenced, then you're running the risk of them being introduced to it at that young age by someone else that doesn't have their best intentions at heart. And that's kind of, again, that's an A and B possibility, a heads and tails. You're doing one, but you're running the risk. If you're not informing them, then you're running the risk. It's not like the old school days where we could say, okay, around 13, around 12, around 15, whatever age was appropriate, for you and your particular belief system. It's not like the old days when you could say around a certain age, okay, then we have a talk about whatever it is, drug use. Maybe we have a talk about the birds and bees at this age. No, it's not like that nowadays. Pardon me. It's like, you know what? We gotta realize that these things are being poured into the lives of our children at the earliest of ages and from all different angles. So if you're not shaping and molding their mind, I guarantee you society is. And society will start low and unclean and counterproductive, and they'll stay there. Because you only need to be a smidget bit aware when it comes to social patterns, current social patterns. And you know that, hey man, mankind has lost its way. And these things are being introduced to our children. Let me say something real quick about those of us as adults. Unfortunately, a lot of us, and I don't mean you or me, but collectively, people have been painted inside of this box for so long. And as I mentioned in pretty much all of my videos, that, are anywhere close to this subject matter, I think the last message that I posted was titled Truth and Self-Acceptance, or Self-Acceptance and Truth. But it talks about, hey man, just because we've made these mistakes, just because we were indoctrinated with these beliefs, just because we were beholden to these things, we don't have to continue to. Once the light, the truth has been made known to us, like we have the power to change. And again, to use those same, heads and tails analogies, if I was raised a thug, but now the truth has been made known to me, then it's incumbent upon me to make sure that society, the class, the culture, isn't doing that misconstruing, or that, shall I say, that indoctrination. They're not running the same game on my nieces, nephews, children, grandchildren, and even some kid that I may be able to give advice to on the street. They're not sending them down the same path that they sent me down. And the same thing from a racist. If you've awakened to the fact that racism it's a lot less than absurd. It's far beyond ridiculous on its face. Same thing when it comes to thugging. Absurd, beyond, ridiculous. But if you're not going to make sure that you are willing to control your own mind, take responsibility own it in terms of that was wrong. There has to be a better way, and then start making changes in the way that you view yourself, the way that you view the world around you. Then you're just gonna remain there. Let's just go ahead and establish that. If you're not willing to put in the hard work to make the changes, to be very conscious, very intentional about what you're thinking, how you're feeling, what you're believing in, the energies that you're putting out, what you're contributing to the world, then there's no in between. There's no sitting on the fence. You're either sending out energies, conduct, and behavior that uplifts this notion, good, clean, noble, integrous, or you're sending out conduct and behavior that kind of fosters everything opposite to that. So jealousy, hatred, lust, greed, envy, all those different things. And it all starts in one's mind, shaping and controlling our minds. That's our responsibility for ourselves, and it's our responsibility to our children, grandchildren, the youth at large. It's our responsibility to collective society, and it's our responsibility when it comes to advancing the kingdom of this thing that we call God. So that's what I got for you guys in terms of today's message. The last couple of messages have gone 40, 50, some over an hour. So I'm going to get out of here, guys, and respect you guys' time. Remember that email link is there for follow-up questions, prayer, motivation, research and study material, etc., 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 as well as it being there for you to schedule your initial consultation and evaluation in any or all of the services matter and all of the services that are offered. Let me also encourage you guys, please do me a favor, watch a video that's titled My Testimony and Disclosure. That's a very important video to me personally, to this ministry as well, and to my Heavenly Father, because I acknowledge Him and I thank Him for that. So it does those things, but it also gives you guys some information about the origins of the ministry. Again, some very relevant disclosure type of information about myself as well. So check that out, guys. If you got any value out of today's message, then there's several things that you can do to send a powerful message out to the universe that says, hey, I vibe with this message. Hey, I vibe with what this ministry is seeking to do. I vibe with the calling and the anointing on the life of this minister in this ministry. You can send a powerful message out to the universe, and when you send that message out to the universe, the universe uses that to reinvigorate, to restore, to renew, to continue to evolve and grow and expand the ministry. So some of the things that you can do, guys, to send that powerful statement out to the universe is to hit the share button. That is most important to me. It would mean a lot to this ministry, but it could, keep in mind, it could mean even more to the person that receives the message the moment that you share it to them. So start by hitting the share button. Please also then, if the Holy Spirit moves you to do so, hit the thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already subscribed, and hit the bell icon if you'd like to receive notifications when I upload new messages. If you'd like to make a monetary donation to send this same powerful force out to the universe, or this powerful signal out to the universe, remember, you can donate $1 or you can donate $100. You're still letting the universe know that you think this ministry has value and can be of service in the lives of others. So I'll leave a Cash App link down in the description box for your monetary donations, the email link for all other inquiries. And remember, this is a mind, body, and spirit ministry, which is to say that regardless of what's going on, you are anointed to make sure that your mind, your body, and your spirit, regardless of your age, regardless of what's going on, your medical conditions, whatever the case may be, you are anointed to make sure that your mind, your body, and your spirit remains beautiful, healthy, and as vibrant as possible. And this ministry has been anointed to help you achieve that goal. That's what I got for you guys. I love you all. I will see you guys in the next one. I am Brother Minister Mongoose, and I will holler back. Peace.